Good evening, you're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkha Dutt. On the program this evening, women continue to be outraged at the lapses that enabled a driver with the Uber car cab company to rape a woman with impunity. New and shocking details are emerging as to how another customer, another woman passenger also complained about the same driver just on the 26th of November. But the company seems to have totally ignored her complaint. Does this not amount to criminal negligence? Also on the program tonight, as the government moves to ban all web-driven cab companies, we're asking whether that's really the solution. Is that the solution, or does the solution lie in closer regulation? Is banning an answer? Also coming up at 9:30 on the program tonight, our Kahwa stop from Srinagar on what young people expect of the elections.
This is the first election I'll be voting by. What's special in this election? My identity is at stake. I'll vote to protect my constitution. I'll vote to protect my subnationalism. I'll vote to protect my flag. I'll vote to protect the exploitation of my water resources at the hands of NHPC. I'll vote to strengthen my assembly.
Let's get started now with our top story this evening. Even as the government has moved to ban not just Uber but all web-driven taxi companies, is that really the solution? Who is responsible? Where does the buck stop? Does it stop with the police that wasn't able to verify the history of this driver who is now being charged with rape? Does it stop with the government that is speaking in two voices on banning car companies like Uber, or does it stop with the company itself? New and shocking details have emerged in the last few minutes as to how on the 26th of November, another woman passenger actually formally in writing complained to the car company about the very same driver who's now been charged with rape. Nidhi Shah, the woman who made the complaint, is joining us now. She's joining us from the United States. And Nidhi, we just saw what you went public with. Tell us what happened with you when you took the cab with the driver now accused of rape on the 26th of November.
Barkha, actually, so the guy had said to me before I got in that his GPS wasn't working, and I had to find him just by walking through Chandni Chowk. We got in, it was me and my partner, and both of us were sitting, but he kept staring through the mirror, and I felt a little uncomfortable, so I would hide behind so he couldn't see me. And I thought he was smiling a little creepily also. So eventually when he dropped us off, I thought I should report it to Uber. And so I just wrote a quick sentence before rushing into my business meeting about this guy. I had a bad feeling about him.
And Nidhi, obviously it was something that made you feel uncomfortable enough to actually give a complaint in writing, because all of us are used to, in a sense, lecherous stares. But there was something about this man that made you uncomfortable enough, unsafe enough, vulnerable enough to actually put your complaint in writing.
So honestly, for me, I knew that something like a service like Uber was really helpful. My family was very worried that I was going to Delhi by myself. And Uber made me feel safe. So I was like, well, if here's this situation where there seems to be a bad situation set up through Uber, I wanted to make it better. That was why I kind of gave feedback as well. And yeah, it was also that I felt unsafe, but I actually had a means to report it. With other taxi drivers, I can't really report that to someone, right? You just kind of move on for your day.
But Uber wrote back to you. What did they say when you complained? What did they say to you?
I think I sent someone an email about it, but essentially they said that they would meet me and have somebody in operations have a chat with Shiv Kumar Yadav.
And it's obvious that the company did not move on it, because what I'm feeling listening to you is that if your complaint had been taken seriously, if this driver had been suspended, Nidhi, then maybe another woman would not have been raped. At least if he had been suspended till further inquiry, based on your complaint.
I get that. And right now I feel like I'm blaming myself as well. Why didn't I do something else about it? But yeah, I wish they had done something.
And to that extent, do you believe that the car company has to take the primary responsibility? Because this changes the nature of the argument, Nidhi, because there is a complaint about this very man in writing from you, from a woman passenger, that the company clearly ignored. They did nothing about your complaint. And to that extent, do you believe that the car company has to take the primary responsibility? Because this changes the nature of the argument, Nidhi, because there is a complaint about this very man in writing from you, from a woman passenger, that the company clearly ignored. They did nothing about your complaint.
I think they do need to take more responsibility for the fact that there are increasing engagements between somebody who would not have, been in front of a woman otherwise. So yeah, there is an onus of responsibility on them. But again, I don't necessarily think that banning these services is the right option.
You don't think banning the services are an option, but yet you're blaming yourself. Why are you saying, I wish I had done more? What more could you have done? Surely it's the company's accountability.
I agree to some extent, yes, but I also feel as if people like you and me, we've gone about our day. We observe, we complain to someone, and we move on. I've always felt we should be doing more. So, yeah, I wrote a little, but what I feel is I should have written a little more to take their attention.
All right, we're going to request you to stay with us, Nidhi, as we now look at this whole issue anew. Till now, it was suggested by the car company that the driver in question had produced a fake verification certificate and therefore the company was not really aware of his antecedents. But now we have Nidhi Shah from the United States joining us saying this man made her uncomfortable. He kept staring at her through the rearview mirror. She complained in writing on the 26th of November. The company did absolutely nothing. As the government puts up a red light for Uber and other web-driven car companies, will that create a safer city for women? Where does the buck stop? Let's introduce our panel this evening. Joining us from Mumbai tonight is Shobha Dey, author and columnist. Also joining us tonight from the Congress is Khushbu, who's now, of course, a member with the Congress Party. With me in the studio is Kavita Krishnan with the All India Progressive Women's Association. We're also joined by Srinagar Rao and Savita. Mr. Rao is with Azad Foundation, which runs a program called Women on Wheels, and Savita is a taxi driver with Sakha Cabs, and we'll be joined by Shaina NC as well in just a moment from now. Shobha, I want your first comments on this new detail that has just emerged on the program. Nidhi is with us as well. She's saying she complained about this same man now charged with rape on the 26th of November. The car company promised to look him up, did absolutely nothing. Doesn't this change the nature of the argument, at least in terms of responsibility and accountability?
Even more than that, Barkha, what I have been concerned about all along, it's not about banning Uber and the argument that it's not going to stop rapes in India. It's about the arrogance. It's about the lack of any kind of responsibility. For 2 days, the company refused to even acknowledge they were a part of the problem. And now comes this new revelation. The man is a hardened criminal. That has been established. Yeah. That he's gotten away with it so far is also a reflection of our lax regulatory standards. There's no passing the buck just to Uber. We're equally to blame. But companies like Uber, I mean, they operate with clear double standards. It's one set of rules in countries which are more diligent about this, more stringent, who expect more scrutiny, demand more scrutiny, and they know that Uber knows they wouldn't get away with it in other countries where they operate. In India, unfortunately, what the message we've sent out to the world is that if we are ready to welcome companies like Uber without putting any of the other regulatory in place, they are going to take advantage of the system. Any company would. And they've done it in the past. Now we are talking about this man. He obviously is a psychopathic, hardened criminal who's also had a rape charge against him. He's done 7 months inside. Despite a criminal record of this kind, if Uber still continued with such a person, there is a clear responsibility there that they cannot shirk away from. They cannot shun anymore. They cannot say, oh, this is how we operate. They make huge profits out of India. They were hoping to make bigger profits. It's a potentially gigantic market for them, which is why they're here in the first place.
Absolutely.
To say that they are not going to be accountable, if this is going to blow up in their face, definitely not just in India but worldwide. Uber also has a history of stalking people, of stalking and intimidating journalists. So the company doesn't exactly have a squeaky clean record to start with.
And
we
now
should have been more vigilant when we allowed them to operate out of India. And we should continue to
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say that now with Nidhi Shah
absolutely
coming
they have
up
a
with
lot
this.
to answer for.
Yeah, Kavita,
Are
does this
not
change
to
the
answer for.
does this change the nature of the argument around the company's responsibility?
I entirely agree with what Shobha just said, and I think she put it very well. My point is that I think there's no, over this entire debate. First,
Yeah.
of course, this latest revelation makes it all the more very directly. It makes Uber
Because they had a
responsible.
complaint in writing.
I would like to say
and if
to
they
Nidhi
paid
here,
heed to that complaint.
I would like to say to Nidhi here that don't blame yourself. You did actually do more than what a lot of others would do. You took the trouble to try and raise the issue, flag the issue.
Yeah.
And you were a guest in the city. You don't live here. You couldn't have spent your entire time here going to the police and so on. You did something. But you raised this issue, you raised your voice, you flagged it, and yet the simplest thing that should have been done to take him off the roads immediately until further inquiry,
Yeah.
this was not done by the one entity who knew, and that was Uber.
I think that's a very important point.
And
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that, this entire debate that's happening about is banning Uber the solution, I don't think that's the way we should frame it. The point is that, of course, our government is responsible
Yeah.
for not having any regulations in place whatsoever. But let's also admit that this particular business model, and especially this particular company, has a record of evading regulations even in countries which do have more stringent regulations. I have seen protests in the US former protests, where people have held up placards saying about Uber and other similar companies, saying they are unregulated and unsafe, and they shouldn't be allowed to operate in this way. This is in the US.
I just want to bring Nidhi back in, and then we'll go to Khushbu. Nidhi, you're hearing everybody here say you actually did a lot more than all of us do when this happens to us. We have, women in India are so brutalized that we tend to internalize sexual violation. Yes. And if someone stares at us, we tell ourselves, okay, it's not that bad. We didn't get hit. We didn't get pawed. Our breasts and bottoms were not groped. It's a kind of internalization of brutalization, that there's no other word for it. Now, I want to ask you, you said banning Uber is not the solution. Why do you think that? Because in your case, if they had just done the basic minimum diligence after your complaint, another woman would not have been raped.
I think banning Uber is not the solution, because at the time that was the one of very few things that made me safe enough to go around my day-to-day, right? So it's not that we're trying to say stopping any kind of interaction between a female and a rapist male is the solution. We need to go about our day and do the things we have to do. Look, I was there trying to bring toilets to the people that don't have them, and if not for Uber, I think I would have felt a little unsafe doing it, or if not for different cab companies.
But that's turned out to be ironic, right? That's turned out to be ironic.
Exactly.
You thought this was a safe company, a safe way to travel in India.
Yeah, so I get the irony behind it, but banning it sort of takes away motivation for other companies to go and establish safe routes of transport.
Quick responses from Kavita and Shobha on this issue of banning. Kavita?
I want to say that, one is not talking about banning taxi services. Okay, of course, women need to be able to be mobile, and they will need public transport, they will need buses, they will need metro, they will need taxi services. The point is that I think we have to fix liability and accountability on all the various players at various levels, which means government downwards. Firstly, primarily the government.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if there are private players involved, private players. If there is a public like DTC, then it has to be DTC. If it's auto drivers union, it has to be auto drivers union. We have to fix responsibility for
So do you support the ban? Do you support the ban?
I support punitive action against Uber, absolutely. I think that they are criminally negligent here, and if it's the ban hits them economically, and I think that after this latest revelation, absolutely. And if once you put regulations in place, I also believe that suspending other companies until you put regulations in place
is the wise thing to do.
Is the wise thing to
let
do.
Let me get Shobha's perspective on that. Do you think it's the wise thing to do, Shobha, that in the absence of a regulatory framework, Kavita's making the point, and in the light of Nidhi Shah's revelations, there is the issue of criminal negligence, and she's supporting, therefore, this punitive action that involves at least suspending licenses till a new framework is in place?
You know, Uber is a huge global brand. They came in here with that arrogance. They thought they would get away with it, and had this not happened, probably they would have gotten away with it. This happened to be the turning point for Uber. They could have carried on like this much longer. But it's not just about Uber, it's not just about other cab companies. The point is, which we refuse to acknowledge, women are simply not safe in India. Whether they're in a cab, whether they're in an auto rickshaw, whether they're traveling in any kind of public transport, or whether they're simply walking as pedestrians on the street. It seems to be that the violence against women in India, the brutality that they encounter on a daily basis, is like a bottomless pit. We have to address that first. We can put in all the laws, we can have regulations, we can have this, that and the other. We can make sure, as Mumbai is doing, to scrutinize all the cab drivers, their licenses, etc., etc. But what do we do about the basic problem of people attacking helpless, unarmed women in our country routinely? They don't have to be in cabs.
I completely agree. I think it's a red herring to make this only about cab drivers.
That.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a red herring, especially when you look at the statistics, and 90% of women in India know their sexual abusers. The enemy is often within the so-called circle of trust. Now, just to get a political response in Shaina, NC, Khushbu, quick responses from you. Shaina, you've just joined us, so you do not know that Nidhi Shah from the United States is with us, making the dramatic revelation, if we can have Nidhi come up as well, making the dramatic revelation that on the 26th of November, she made a complaint against the very same driver, and the car company did absolutely nothing to even check out her complaint. If they had, another woman would not have been raped today. Yet your government is speaking in two voices. Nitin Gadkari is getting up and saying banning is not the answer. Rajnath Singh is saying banning is the answer. Why is there no clarity in the government response?
Barkha, let me please say on record that there are lacunas in the system, and we all know. The fact that Uber has been functioning in this country, has a different set of norms overseas, and has this particular case where you have the perpetrator of the crime who is a rape convict and has spent 7 months in Tihar jail. So do we need to have better systems? Yes, it's a foregone. What should we as the government have done? Clearly, banning them may not be a holistic solution, but it is a clear remedy vis-a-vis what needs to be the outcome of this case, which is a conviction for Shiv Yadav.
Your government is not speaking in one voice on this.
We are. Barkha, if you just hear the reference to context, what has Mr. Rajnath Singh said on the House of the Floor, in Parliament today? He said on the floor of the House, sorry, I stand corrected. On the floor of the House, he said that this is a case where they have not done their due diligence. As a company, they need to be pulled up. We need to ensure that these kind of cases don't take place again, and that is why we as the government are banning them. What did Nitin Gadkari say? He said that the holistic solution is not just banning a particular company or banning X, Y, or Z. These kind of atrocities that take place with women, be it rape, be it molestation, be it just pinching of the bum, or any kind of incident that one goes through in a bus or a train. What is the solution? The solution is to use technology at its best, to use all these various apps to ensure CCTV cameras, GPS systems are all in place.
That's fine, but you know,
and
in the
at
light,
the same time,
I'm going to interrupt you
because
in the light of these new revelations, the government also has to take responsibility for leaving this sector as unregulated as it did, celebrating Uber as the, you know, as the story of e-commerce and a company that's flushed with funds that didn't want to spend any money on verifying its drivers. Khushbu, quick response from you, and then I want to hear from this Women on Wheels company. Khushbu.
I'm not going to politicize this issue, Barkha, because I think the woman, we do not even know whether she was voting for Congress or BJP or any other party. I think as a woman of this country, that's not relevant. I think what has happened to her is very, very unfortunate. We really need to scrutinize the companies. We need to pull up Uber, and we have to understand not only Uber, actually all the other companies who absolutely flout in when they are choosing the people as to what kind of people are going to serve in their companies.
So do you support the ban?
This driver is
support the ban, Khushbu?
No,
in the absence of a regulatory
banning
framework.
Uber alone is not going to banning Uber is not going to happen
but you
alone.
supported as the first step.
What happened? Were we able to ban the buses when Nirbhaya happened in Delhi? Were we able to ban the buses?
Kavita, respond to that.
We did actually ban the unregulated buses, Khushbu. We did.
Unregulated buses alone. Unregulated buses, but then they're running.
Those buses are not
back on the roads. They're back on the roads.
No, just a minute.
They are still running. I was in Delhi too. I was in Delhi too. They are still running.
You know, if they are running in violation of the law. They are supposed.
Nobody. That is what I'm saying. They are still running. The violation of the law.
Yes, but what I mean is that we are asking that unregulated buses should not be on the roads, right? Similarly, unregulated cabs shouldn't be on the roads.
We do not come to a solution.
Okay, now we take your point. The debate is over whether this is a beginning. Is it one step of the solution? It's obviously not the only solution. You are helping women actually become taxi drivers, but your fleet is small. So does it really, is the woman cabbie really an alternative mode of public transport?
I think it's not about it is an alternative mode of transport. It is about the transport space itself is so masculine that it has to get feminine. If you want women to be in public spaces, if you want women to go freely in the public spaces. But will the women
cab drivers themselves be safe in a city like ours, in a country like ours?
I think very much safe, yes. You need right kind of infrastructure and you need right kind of mindset.
Do they drive at all hours like other
yes,
taxis?
24/7.
सविता आपसे पूछूंगी, आप टैक्सी चलाती हैं?
Yes, ma'am.
डर लगता है कभी?
नहीं मैम।
आप देख रही है शहर में क्या होता है औरतों के साथ रात को दिन में भी कहीं भी आपको मालूम है?
जी, कहीं भी मतलब वुमेन कहीं भी मतलब सेफ नहीं है, ना घर पे ना बाहर, या फिर हम कहीं और काम करने जाते हैं तो वहाँ पे कहीं है नहीं ऐसा कुछ भी। पर ये है जो हमारी जो कंपनी है वो बिल्कुल सेफ मतलब
लेकिन आपकी कुछ you have only how many cars, Srinivas?
We have
14.
So you need the sector to expand for it to become a real alternative. Whose job is that? You think the government should
I think government has the responsibility to expand this kind of initiative. We are just showing that this is possible.
Okay, time for last comments. Shobha, I'll start with you. There is a division of opinion or a difference of opinion on whether banning an unregulated sector is a first step. But given Nidhi's case, how do we not make the company accountable?
Barkha, banning Uber is just going to deflect from the real problem. Of course, Uber can be banned and they can be penalized, they can be, whatever needs to be done, ought to be done, should be done. But the malaise is beyond Uber, it's beyond taxi cabs. Like the Chief Justice said, we cannot compromise on the liberty of women by legislating on their security. I'm paraphrasing. So where does it all end? You can ban one cab service, you can ban another one, but does that make it safer for women? I'm only afraid that this whole issue is going to be politicized in view of the elections that are coming up, and it will be one party calling out to the other party, one calling for a ban, another saying we don't support the ban. And in all of this, whether it's a Nidhi or the young victim, will play second fiddles. They'll be soon forgotten, and it's not going to solve the problem. There's going to be psychopaths on the road, in our homes, everywhere.
Shaina and Khushbu have to stop their parties from politicizing it. You're absolutely right. We are not safe often in our own homes as women. Kavita, quickly.
I want to say that, just blaming it on mindset. See, mindset we all know is horrible. It's not just in India. Even the streets are, terrible even in New York City, and in France. I've had people tell me that. The point I think here is to fix accountability, because you cannot just say it's all mindset. The responsibility for public transport and other modes of transport, Verma committee recommendations actually in great detail set out what needs to be done, what should be the starting point. Why is it that no governments, not the previous government, not this government, they have done nothing, and we have to hold them responsible for this and demand that they act?
Just 30 seconds to both Khushbu and Shaina, and then Nidhi gets the last word. Khushbu, you're saying banning is not an answer, but Kavita makes a compelling argument that till regulations are in place, you need at least temporary suspensions.
everything is on the papers, but nobody has taken it forward.
aren't on paper.
Everything, we know it's on the papers. Why we are not even taking it forward? The first thing I said, we are not going to politicize this because a woman is involved in it. So this is not about politics, this is not about BJP, this is not about Congress. It's about the woman. It's about the safety of this of the women of our country. I think we need to take it forward. We need to put a full stop to this. It's not about the mindset of the people. It's like how we are going to regulate the laws where people are scared to have any kind of sexual assault against a woman.
Let me bring in Shaina. Shaina, briefly, we're running against time here. Shaina, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, Barkha, in the past 6 months, there have been over 76% cases which have been solved by the Delhi police within a week's time. So I think that if we have political will, in cases, we will see that the guilty are brought to task, prosecution is tight,
what about
conviction is on the
prevention.
No, but the prevention. One second, please let me speak.
Prosecution. In any case, the prosecution statistics you're stating are not right. They're wrong.
Kavita, let me please, your statistics may not also be right. I have what I've got from the National Crime Bureau. I just want to say two things. One is that preventive is one aspect. One is what society's role, where these perverts emerge from, what needs to happen. And the third is the role of technology today. We have so many apps, we have so many systems.
I think that's an important point. There is technology outpacing laws. Is technology outpacing laws? Mr. Rao?
I don't.
Can we do away with the fact that today people do want to order a cab, you know, using their tablets app?
That is fine. That is fine. I mean, you can. But then regulations. It has to be regulated. If you have a driver who doesn't even have a PSV badge and he is just running a cab, it is unacceptable.
Then accountability becomes impossible.
Accountability is
okay,
with the government.
I think Nidhi is still with us. Nidhi, for people who are just joining us, we want to bring them up to speed with what happened to you on the 26th of November. Visiting from the United States, you used Uber, you used the same taxi driver. He stared at you through the rearview mirror. He made you deeply uncomfortable. You complained in writing. The company said it would do something. It did absolutely nothing. It changes the nature of the conversation, the nature of the debate. Your last thoughts tonight, Nidhi?
You know, listening to you guys talk, I do think that maybe banning Uber for the near future does make sense before some of these regulatory hurdles are figured out. But at the end of the day, look, there was a rape situation a year ago and nothing has changed since then. It does make me uncomfortable thinking about coming and doing business in India or traveling to India on my own.
And you must feel, as I saw in your tweets, that this could have been you. I think for every woman, when you hear what happens in terms of sexual violence, you feel this could have been me.
If I was alone in that car, I don't know, it could have been me.
What would be your message to women in India today who are very, very upset? And why women only? All right, thinking men as well.
I mean, honestly, I have no idea what to say. So I was a little vigilant and I continued, I did report. Honestly, not everyone is going to want to do that, but the ones who can and who haven't so far, maybe you should take the time to report what's wrong, what you see is wrong, instead of just complaining about it, because that's the only way we're going to change.
All right, we'll leave it there. Nidhi Shah, thank you for sharing your story. Kavita Krishnan, Srinivas Rao, and of course to Savita, who's a taxi driver with Sakha Cabs, Shobha De, Shaina NC and Khushbu. Thank you so much for joining us on the Buck Stops here. New revelations as Nidhi Shah from the United States says she took exactly the same taxi on the 26th of November, the same driver. She complained about him, but the company did absolutely nothing to follow up. We'll be taking a quick break. On the other side, our Kawa stop from Srinagar on a day when polling in Jammu and Kashmir remains healthy, even in areas like Uri, where there was a terror attack, and separatist bastions like Sopore.
I'll vote because someday or somewhere I have that hope. He doesn't have, that's something, his own personal opinion. But the point here is, whatever the constitution has given us and whatever the agreements have been there, if any party wins and actually gets down to gain the trust of people, can actually help to have a better relationship.
Welcome back. You're watching The Buck Stops Here. Time now to shift our focus to Jammu and Kashmir, where the state is continuing to maintain a healthy turnout. In its third phase today, if we can bring those graphics up, please, the polling has been 59% in phase 3. And Uri, where the terror attack took place on the army camp, has hit back at the terror attack with an 83% turnout. Tral, however, an area which also saw a terror attack, has stayed cautious at 38%. What's very interesting, if we can just move on now to the next graphic and we can take you through the details of this. Uri, as we were saying, hits back at terror with 83% turnout. Tral stays cautious at 38%. The separatist bastion of Sopore, considered a Syed Ali Shah Gilani base, recorded 30% polling today. Compare this to the 1% in the Lok Sabha elections in this assembly segment. Tonight we ask again whether this is an election of hope or hype. Can this election heal the wounded state? Time now for our Kahwa stop from Srinagar.
Hello and welcome to this special broadcast coming to you from Srinagar. In the Lok Sabha elections of 2014, we brought you our special series Chai Stop, where we would discuss the burning political issue of the day over a cup of chai. But when in Kashmir, it has to be the Kahwa stop. Kahwa, of course, is the traditional chai consumed here with spices, especially in winter. It's a delightful cup of tea, but even more delightful is going to be our conversation today on this Kahwa stop. We're looking, of course, at the elections. And over steaming hot cups of kahwa, we'll be asking a range of people here what they expect from the elections. Is this an election of hope or is this an election of hype? Can it bring healing to the state of Jammu and Kashmir? Those are some of the questions that we will be putting to the many, many different cross-section of voices that we have here with our cups of kahwa. So I'm going to just move from table to table and get a sense from people as to whether they are voting, they're not voting, if they are, why, if they aren't, why not. आप में से कौन vote करेगा या करने का इरादा है? जी. Tell me, what are you hoping for? क्या उम्मीद है?
I'm hoping for best. It is mainly, I am voting mainly for the purpose of this administration.
Achha.
Yes, and I think that if they are going to do something better, they are going to do something better for us. That is why I am voting this time.
And do you feel that more people are voting this time because people have decided that they must have a voice at least in the Bijli Sadak Pani issues?
Yes, yes. Most of the, if we see here in the Gandharwal and other where,
yes,
there is a quite high percentage of people that they are voting this time.
So you're voting for your administrative issues. What about you? Are you planning to vote?
No, I'm not going to vote.
Why is that?
Well, because I already know the candidates which are going to contest elections from my constituency. Since I know them and I know they have not been doing anything so far. So why should I go and vote them when I know they won't do anything?
But suppose later you're unhappy with them and you haven't voted. Don't you worry that you won't have a voice in the system?
Well, even if I go and vote and I know they are not going to do anything, I'll still complain about it. And I'll complain either way.
So you're not going to vote?
No, not at all.
Have you ever voted?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, this is your first election and you have chosen not to vote. So two very different perspectives here. I'll come to you as well, but let me go to this table. We have somebody from Ladakh here also and we have this young girl here. Let's start with her. Aap vote karenge?
Yeah, if I get a chance, I will.
Why do you say if you get a chance?
Because for me, on my own personal opinions, I would like to have somebody, a little hope, because I know, and I have a choice to make. If I have a choice to make, I would vote for somebody. I would not say who. But to see a little of hope of a better Kashmir, I don't know in what ways that better will be. It can be in any way. But sensibly saying, I would just want that person or that party not to play politics, just sensibly work on to make people of Kashmir a little peaceful, and to be happy living in this paradise and not be being miserable now and then because of all the calamities or whatever the past has given us. And
so you're hoping for peace?
Yeah, hope for peace.
And do you believe this election is different from other elections?
Not at all.
Not different?
Not at all.
Not different. Well, it's been billed as one of the most distinct elections, but is it really for the young people here? What about you? What do you think of these elections?
Like, in order to vote, I would like to know these election as an institution are credible. Like, people have been voting for Bijli Sadak Pani, and they have been voting for Bijli Sadak Pani since decades, and nothing has been resolved yet.
But don't you think, I'm just coming there, don't you think that जब आप credibility की बात करते हैं, एक बदलाव तो आया है, that nobody is these are free and fair elections. एक ज़माना होता था जब allegations होती थी rigging की, coercion की, अब वो नहीं होता. अब जिसको वोट करना है वो करता है, जिसको नहीं करना वो नहीं करता. So why do you question the credibility?
If I start believing that, like, all of a sudden these politicians are going to, like, fulfill our demands, the promises they have made, it will be wrong. Like, people given mandate, they have scam up to their sleeves. So how can I trust?
So you won't vote?
No, I won't vote.
What about you? Let me ask you, आपका क्या ख्याल है?
Absolutely, I'm not going to vote because the kind of leaders we have in Kashmir. Recently in GK, I saw that more than 76% of our leaders are educational drawbacks. So we can guess that what sort of leaders they are going.
But isn't that elitist? आप कह रहे हैं कि you have to be educated to be a politician.
No, it's not necessary that we have to be educated, but to some extent that they have to understand the aspirations of younger generations. So it is.
What is your aspiration? You know, the Prime Minister made a statement saying that even today's youth wants to hold an Android, not an AK-47. Do you agree?
I don't agree because...
you don't agree? You don't think young people want aspiration, dreams, and they want guns?
Ma'am, just try to listen me. Actually, it was a criminal statement. I will try to justify it because he said that the generation need Android phone, not AK-47. It means he's indirectly trying to portray us as terrorists.
No, he was talking about misled youth. उन्होंने कहा कि जो mislead हुए हैं, लेकिन you were, of course, you say you don't agree with that statement. Let's get a perspective here. We have somebody here who's from Jammu but who works in Srinagar, is also a cultural activist. Ravinder Kaul, आप क्या सोचते हैं?
I think that I'm very happy with these young people here, and many of them are voting and they have some faith in democracy. I think the best thing about this election is that people are going out to vote and they are expressing their faith in the democratic system of this.
But you know, you heard some of the young people here saying, we are voting for Bijli Sadak Pani. We are voting for administration. Don't mix this up with the larger debate that continues around Jammu and Kashmir. So what do you say about that?
My take on this is that every time you elect a chief minister, so you elect legislatures and legislators in turn elect a chief minister, and he becomes the representative of Jammu and Kashmir state. Okay. If you have to talk about the larger Kashmir issue, as they say, I think he is the most appropriate person because he represents the people of the state.
So you think that the elections are a route to the larger dialogue?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me see if the person sitting next to you agrees with what you said.
What?
आप vote करेंगे?
No.
क्यों नहीं?
Ma'am, because this is voting and the Kashmir dispute. They are two different things.
Okay.
But the politicians here are saying, when they are doing this election meetings and all that, they're saying we'll do this justice with this Kashmir dispute and all that. But then when they win, then they are just what?
So you don't have much hope?
No.
Okay, so we're having really a mix of views here, and let me get a perspective here. Any of you are going to vote? Huh? You're going to vote? Okay, so tell me I'll come to you also. What are you expecting?
Actually, I'm going to vote, but I doesn't have any idea about these political leaders because it's my first...
Vote करेंगे पहला election.
Yeah, this is my first time.
So what is making you vote? Because a lot of people this time, unlike other elections, are voting.
Because actually I expected a lot of expectations, what they promised with the people, like they have promised that we will do these things, but actually from the last decades they are not doing this. But actually for this time like it's a new government, like there are the new candidates and new they are
so they're new people, so you want to give them a chance.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said you would not vote. Why?
Absolutely, I'm not going to vote because India is portraying elections as an right to self-determination. And
wait, who has said that it's a right to self-determination?
Yes, every now and then we are seeing in media that these are that people have voted and something like that.
मैं आपसे एक बात पूछूं, ये separatist जो leaders हैं, You've seen someone like Sajad Lone. He used to be a separatist. He's contesting this time. Do you not think elections are the best way for even the other separatists? Syed Ali Shah Gilani, he's been a member of the assembly before. Let's not forget. Mirwais Omar Farooq. Why don't they just contest and test their popular support?
Ma'am, actually, India is portraying it as an
larger.
It's a political issue.
Okay.
It's political issue.
So you're saying don't mix up the two. Let me just get your sense. Anyone voting at this table? Okay, people are voting. Let's hear what you're hoping for.
Yeah, we are hoping for the change. It's my first time I am voting. It's why I am voting, because last 3 decades or years I have not voted, and we have got nothing from that. So we want change. We want people to change.
What's making you vote this time? इस बारी क्या अलग है कि आपने फैसला किया कि वोट तो मैं डालूंगा?
Yeah, definitely. I should vote because I want change. I want Kashmir to change. People here change. People are coming in large numbers to vote this year because they know nothing had happened in past. So
they're voting for change. What do you think? Are you going to vote?
No, I'm not going to vote. Because first, for which party I am going to vote, they have to accept that Kashmir is a disputed land between two nations.
But India will never accept that.
Why?
मैं आपको एक फैक्चुअल पोजीशन दे रही हूँ कि आपको लगता है कि आजकल जो बॉयकॉट कॉल होता था पहले, that has no effectiveness anymore. You know, so separatists also have to review their previous politics.
No, I don't think so. It's why? Because Kashmiri people want they want development.
अच्छा, जो लोग वोट कर रहे हैं, एक मिनट, जो लोग वोट कर रहे हैं, आप उनको तो रिस्पेक्ट करेंगे, उनकी अपनी चॉइस है.
For what they are voting, I went back a week back in Vathura village, and they were all PDP supporters. I asked them why you are voting for PDP, and you know what was the answer? They said because we are voting for electricity, we are voting for unemployment. Okay. I will be happy if I drive an auto. I will be happy for that, but I won't vote because they are projecting.
I've understood what you're saying. You're saying that there's a distinction between the Bijli Sadak Pani issues and the larger issue. That's what you're saying. You said you would vote. Why?
Yes, I have wasted a couple of votes previously. This is the first election I'll be voting by. What's special in this election? My identity is at stake. I'll vote to protect my constitution. I'll vote to protect my subnationalism. I'll vote to protect my flag. I'll vote to protect the exploitation of my water resources at the hands of NHPC. I'll vote to strengthen my assembly.
Very interesting. You're actually saying that you believe that the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, it has its own flag, it has its own constitution. It is important for people to safeguard those politics and the party positions that actually support those.
Absolutely. There are some foreign voices coming. They are saying even Article 370 will be abrogated.
Foreign voices means?
BJP, obviously.
How can you call it a foreign voice?
Because they had no sitting in the land of Jammu and Kashmir.
It's a free and fair election. लोगों की मर्जी है, उनको वोट करेंगे या ना करेंगे. Foreign कहाँ से बन गए? I mean, they're Indian.
Yes, that's why they are foreign. That's what.
So then all other parties are also that who swear by the Indian Constitution. The National Conference and the PDP owe their allegiance to the Indian Constitution.
They do, but they have an agenda. For example, you talk about National Conference. They have the autonomy. They talk about strengthening of assembly. PDP has the self-rule. They talk about strengthening of the assembly. But BJP tries to dilute the J&K's special position.
Okay, so you're saying you will actually vote to safeguard the historical position, as it were, of Jammu and Kashmir within the larger union. I haven't spoken to you. Are you planning to vote?
No, absolutely not. I'm not planning to vote. No, because I have some personal issues. Because you know what? The India is not highlighting the democratic setup since decades. But what has happened? We are just buried and we are just busting the streets. Well, you know what? Recently in Haryana, you do the goons. They
beating up Kashmiris.
Yes.
So you feel there's absolutely no point. Is there someone here who hasn't spoken? Yes, you're from Ladakh. Are you going to and you study here? You study here, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you study?
MA in political science. I'm pursuing master's degree in political science.
Now, one of the things about Jammu and Kashmir is that the three regions have very different approaches to the same issues, right? And that creates, it becomes very difficult to actually have a representative audience because जिस region में आप जाएं अलग-अलग तरह की आपको opinions मिलती हैं. What do you think of these elections?
इस इलेक्शन से मुझे काफ़ी उम्मीद है क्योंकि मेरा फर्स्ट टाइम था और मैंने वोट कास्ट किया लद्दाख में जाके मैंने वोट कास्ट किया क्योंकि उम्मीद था क्योंकि मेरा मानना ये हम यूथ क्रिटिक्स करते हैं कि पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स कुछ नहीं करते हमारे लीडर्स कुछ नहीं करते मेरा मानना ये कि हम यूथ को आना चाहिए हमारे वॉइस को आगे रखना चाहिए कि हमें क्या चाहिए एक्चुअल में हमें क्या चाहिए जब तक हम अपने वॉइस को आगे नहीं रखेंगे, हम अपने आप को रिप्रेजेंट नहीं कर पाएंगे।
तो यहाँ जो आपके दोस्त हैं जो कहते हैं हम नहीं वोट डालेंगे, आप उनको क्या कहेंगे?
मैं उनको यही कहना चाहूंगा, उनके अपने पर्सनल रीजंस हो सकते हैं या जनरल कोई रीजंस हो सकते हैं, लेकिन जहां तक मेरा मानना है, अगर हम एज ए यूथ वोट ना डालें, एज ए यूथ हम अपने वॉइस को आगे ना ले जाए, तो मतलब हम नहीं कह सकते, हम ब्लेम नहीं लगा सकते कि कोई
तो बाद में कंप्लेन नहीं कर सकते
बाद में।
ओके, व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
I'm definitely not going to cast my vote, because as that person tried to say, elections are being tried to be portrayed as the substitute for plebiscite.
But there's never going to be a plebiscite. Surely you know that. There's never, no, I'm just saying there's never going to be.
Why?
I'm just giving you a factual position. I'm coming to you. You're all shouting. There's no need to shout. I'm giving you my assessment. If you are right, if I am giving you my assessment. Excuse me, 1 minute. I am giving you my assessment. अगर आप ठीक साबित हैं तो 10 साल बाद हम मिलेंगे. 10 साल बाद मिलेंगे.
Then how is it a democratic country when plebiscite is our constitution?
Why don't your separatists come and test the electoral ground here?
Why don't the government come and hold a plebiscite?
You're all speaking together. Let him speak.
Why don't the Indian government come and hold a plebiscite when they are that much sure?
Okay, you want to add to that?
Yeah, see, Jammu and Kashmir cannot be discussed from one point of view and denying the other parts.
Yes.
It cannot be taken as a political thing, isolated, an economic thing or whatever. You cannot isolate every section alag-alag. Like it's all interrelated.
Okay.
So for politics, everyone has his own view of voting and not voting. I'll vote because someday or somewhere I have that hope. He doesn't have, that's something, his own personal opinion. But the point here is, whatever the constitution has given us and whatever the agreements have been there, if any party wins and actually gets down to gain the trust of people, can actually help to have a better relationship.
Okay, I think that's well said, that the elections could be a beginning. They're not a means to an end. I think you haven't spoken yet. Just your last comments, then I have to end.
1951 July, when the elections were rejected by this Security Council of the Union, I feel.
But we are in 2014.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the relevance of the United Nations?
What was the last time, ma'am? I want to tell India that if they are going to build a strength of 15 lakh army, they have these atomic.
Okay, so you're not going to vote. I've understood your point. No, we're out of time. Now you're seeing. Excuse me, we're out of time. I've got to end. You're seeing the division of very strong opinions here. Some people here say elections are meaningless. Some people here say elections could be a means to an end. Some people say they're voting because they want to safeguard the special status. So we've got a mix of honest opinions here. 10 seconds to you. 10 seconds, have to end.
It's only Article 370 which has created this otherness in Jammu.
But you had him saying.
Number one.
No, okay, let's not start a debate now on 370. I'm going to end here before this discussion actually goes out of control. As you can see, this is why the issue of Jammu and Kashmir is so difficult to have an honest conversation on, because tempers will always fly. People will always accuse the media. The media, of course, gets pissed, as they say, from all sides. However, we tried to give you an unvarnished, honest mix of opinions. People who are voting, people who are not voting, a number of people saying they're voting, but the larger issue, the larger questions, the larger challenges of the Jammu and Kashmir issue remain, and whichever government comes will soon have to address that. That's it on our very volatile Kehwa Stop now. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.